Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome again on our webinar entitled Empowering Educators Through ICT Wave 2.0. And this afternoon, our topic is about Adobe Photoshop Essentials for Educators. But before we begin, we would like to remind everyone to subscribe on our CICT or BulSU-CICT YouTube channel. So to begin with this topic, since we already identified the various multimedia elements in the morning session, so this afternoon, we're about to go through an extensive discussion about graphics. So to give you a quick review about graphics, it is the most commonly used element in multimedia. So graphics might be in a form of raster or vector. Mostly, raster images are the type of images used like in digital photographs, and vector images are being used in some animations or games. So it's also mentioned earlier that aside from characters, backgrounds, effects, graphics can also be used on multimedia applications as clickable buttons that triggers actions and functionalities. So we have two types of computer graphics, and the first one is what I've mentioned earlier, vector graphics or draw type. It represents an image as a geometric shape made up of straight lines, ovals, and arcs. So when you draw a line, a set of instructions is written to describe its size, position, and shape. If more than one line is drawn, it has a precise relationship to the other parts. So this type of graphics are often used to retain distinctive lines, relative positions, and sizes when they are modified. Example of these graphics are commonly used in company logos, line arts, and even text fonts. The second type of graphic is raster graphics or bitmap. It usually render images through an array of dots called pixels. So raster graphics are often used with photographic images because they can represent precise gradients in color compared to vector graphics. Also, like or compared to vector graphics, it is its link relationship among its parts. So when the size or when the settings change, so usually raster graphics become distorted. So under those circumstances, to avoid distortion, raster graphic needs to be adjusted using resolution settings. So to understand more about this, let's proceed to the common graphic settings. So common digital graphic settings, number one is screen resolution. So it is measured in horizontal and vertical pixels. So with a setting as lowest standard of 800 by 600, we can say that the larger the pixel count and the smaller the pixel diameter, it gives a higher image resolution. So a screen resolution of 1280 by 720 will display much better quality image than a screen resolution of 800 by 600 at the same size monitor. Actually, screen resolutions are being used to display digital images. So another setting is image size. So it is the number of pixels making up the image. So the screen resolution and the image size determine how much of the screen is occupied by the image. For example, if the image size is 800 by 600 and the screen resolution is the same with 800 by 600, surely the image will occupy the entire screen. So in this instance, it is usually experienced when the user is about to set an image background in a desktop PC. Another common setting is the color depth. So it is a range of colors available for each pixel. So each pixel can display from one color to millions of colors. Various number of colors can be determined by information associated with each pixel, depending on the number of bits specified to it. For example, for an 8-bit setting, it can display for about 256 colors per pixel, and for 16-bit for about 65,000 colors, and for 24-bit for about 16.7 million colors. So these settings can be assigned to an image as you're about to create it using an application like Adobe Photoshop. Another common setting is file size. So it is directly related to image size and color depth. Graphic size or graphic image file sizes can become unproductively large depending on the complexity of the image and the way the image are developed. Educators must balance the need for the quality images with the need to keep the file size small. So an understanding to graphic image file size can help educators and students to reduce the time it takes to download or it takes to display an image on the computer. So it can be estimated using the formula image size in pixels multiplied by color depth in bits divided by 8. But to avoid manual computation, most image editing applications like Photoshop provides such information before creating and while manipulating a certain digital image. Another common setting for graphics is file formats. So it determines how the file will be displayed. So graphic images can be saved in variety of file formats. So some file formats are more space efficient than others. For example, a file saved in PCX, or what we can usually save this file format using Windows Paint, generally has a smaller file size than a file saved in JPEG format. So educators can select the file format based on its intended use. For example, PNG is used to exchange files between applications and computer formats, and JPEG is used when preparing photographs for display on the web. So we have PCX for Windows Paint. We have also GIF as graphic interchange file format. We also have PNG or portable network graphics and JPEG or Joint Photographers Experts Group. Next is for common graphic programs. So the common programs we use to manipulate or create graphics are number one, paint programs. So it is used to create bitmap images. They are useful in creating original art because they providing the tools such as brushes and pens used by artists. Example of this program is MS Paint. Another common program is drawing programs used to create draw type graphics. So they provide for freehand as well as geometric shapes. Consequently, they are useful in creating designs where precise dimensions and relationships are important. Example of this is Adobe Illustrator. And the last program, and we're about to explore this one, image editing programs used to create and manipulate pixel-based images. So they are useful in making changes such as changing the brightness or contrast or applying textures or patterns into an existing image. So one example is, of course, Adobe Photoshop. So to give you more background about the developer of this application, which is Adobe Incorporated. So it is an American multinational computer software company headquartered in San Jose, California, and incorporated in Delaware. So it has historically focused upon creation of multimedia and creative software products with a more recent foray towards digital marketing software. And specifically for Adobe Photoshop, so it is a raster graphic editor developed and published by Adobe Incorporated for Windows and Mac OS. It was originally created in 1988 by Thomas and John Knoll. So since then, the software has become the industry standard not only in raster graphics editing, but in digital art as a whole. Adobe Photoshop, or simply Photoshop, is the current and primary market leader for commercial bitmap and image manipulation. From the previous versions of CS or Creative Suite up to the advent of CC or Creative Cloud, Photoshop remains as the flagship product of Adobe. Even its licensing scheme was changed from proprietary software to software as a service. Adobe Creative Cloud gives subscribers access to its software collection with a monthly or annual subscription service and delivered via online. To explore Adobe Photoshop, uh, it is also said that develops and publishes along with Photoshop Elements, Photoshop Lightroom, Photoshop Express, Photoshop Fix, and Photoshop Sketch. So as of November 2019, Adobe has also released a full version of Photoshop for the iPad. And while initially limited, Adobe plans to bring more features to Photoshop for iPad. So collectively, they are branded as the Adobe Photoshop family and serves as the ultimate playground for bringing out the best in your digital images and transforming them into anything you can imagine. So to explore more about Adobe Photoshop, I may now turn you to Sir Jason Maglalang.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay, everyone? Okay, so to continue our webinar for this session, I will be demonstrating Adobe Photoshop essentials, more on demonstration actions about how to use basically the software that have been introduced to you by Mr. Christian Medran. So first, I am Jason Maglalang. I'm also an IT instructor here in Bulacan State University, College of Information and Communications Technology. And I'm also a freelance content developer. And I'm also using other multimedia softwares and including this software, Adobe Photoshop Essentials. So let's get started with further introduction with this software. Okay, for this afternoon, um, we'll be discussing these topics. So essentially, we'll be working first with Adobe Photoshop layers. And aside from that, we'll be modifying and editing some images. Specifically, first, we'll be exploring how to scale and crop images properly so we can use it to our learning materials, since this webinar is basically for educators also. We'll be discussing how to make selections and discuss different file types. And also, we'll be exploring how to remove objects from images, because sometimes there are images that have unwanted objects inside, so we can just modify or remove them. Basically, we can explore it later on. We'll be discussing quick about type tool and paint bucket tool to have some text and even basic colors to our artwork. And we'll be exploring at least quick uh, overview about image adjustments, layer styles, and image filters. And also, since there's also a webinar on Thursday about advanced MS PowerPoint, so this session too will discuss a little bit of topic that we can use for that webinar. Basically, how to prepare your images for your presentations, whether it is for PowerPoint or Keynote or other media you're using to create your learning materials. Next is, these are the useful shortcuts that actually we can or will be using later on when I'm discussing in Photoshop. So If you have your phones, or you can take screenshots, you can also take note some of these shortcuts. So as I go along with my discussion, you can simply get familiar with these shortcuts. So we will be mostly using these actions basically. So in zoom in, zoom out, of course, undo, save, layer actions, selections, and modifying image sizes. So again, you can take screenshots or take note of this useful shortcuts. All right. Um, I hope you have taken some screenshots or take notes of these shortcuts. Let's proceed. Um, Most of the time when I create Adobe Photoshop files later on, since this is basically for educators, my focus will be for these sizes. Okay, so for PowerPoint size and Keynote dimension size of your Photoshop files, basically our images can be imported to these softwares, Microsoft PowerPoint, and of course Keynote if you're using Mac. Um, the basic dimensions of these softwares is, for example, first PowerPoint, we have 1280 by 720 pixels. So this is the major dimension, and then the resolution is 96, but we're going to talk about it later on. For Keynote, we have much higher resolution. We have 1920 by 180p. So later on, I'll be using these sizes, so you can get more familiar with the sizes when you're going to use Photoshop. Okay. Um, First, with my topics is working with layers. Okay, so I'll start with working with layers. And what are layers in Photoshop? Just a short overview. In Photoshop, there is a layers panel. It's okay if you don't have any familiarization with the software first, but I'm just going to discuss the basic concept of layers. When we're talking about layers, we are basically talking about stacks of images or objects in Photoshop. Basically, we can add multiple media like text and other graphics in a single file. So to give you a live demonstration of it, I will proceed with the software itself, and I'll start with layers. Okay, if you can see my screen now, I have this example. So this is Adobe Photoshop. Basically, I'm going to show you how to open up or create file later. But for now, let's focus on layers. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen now? All right. Okay. Okay. So this is Adobe Photoshop. Again, I'm going to open up Photoshop later on and create raw files, or we'll start with a new file. But for now, I'm going to discuss layers to get you familiarized. The most One of the most important part here in Photoshop. Don't focus first uh, on other areas in this interface. So first, let's have this. So when I'm saying layers, we are basically talking about this layers panel here. Okay, so this layers panel has this multiple layers inside. So I have um, basically one, two, three, multiple layers, of course. these layers that have eye icons, meaning they are technically visible dun sa interface po natin. So when I click this eye icon, you'll notice here that na-remove na po yung text na na-display natin kanina. Because basically, what we have done is na-hide natin yung nakastack na layer. So like what I've said earlier, pag sinabi po natin layers sa Photoshop, we are like stacking objects. So naka-stack po dito sa document na to yung etong text na may invitations, envelopes, etc. Yung logo na Fantastic Owls, tsaka yung image natin na to. So I have 3 layers shown here in my layers panel. If I'm going to click all of these eye icons, we basically just turned off everything dun sa interface natin. So again, in our layers panel, the idea is we are like stacking objects. So let me turn them on again. So I just click the eye icon on this layer, and then this content and this owl, tsaka yung logo ng Fantastic Owls ay nag-appear. Okay, so ganito po nag-work yung layers. And then, paano ba nagkakaroon ng layers? Okay, so here in our layers panel, we can just basically click this icon para mapag-create po tayo ng new layers. It is okay if sa tingin niyo po parang medyo overwhelming yung interface, medyo marami yung buttons or icons, but you don't have to focus on everything here in this interface. Sa layers po muna tayo. Dito sa icon na to, basically, again, pag nag-click tayo doon, pwede tayo ma-create ng sarili nating layers. Pag nag-create po tayo ng sarili nating layer, I can do something here like pwede ako mag-brush dyan, or I can even paint. Mamaya I will talk about the tools that I've been using right now. So what I've done is basically parang na-ruined natin yung image, di ba po? But since Photoshop is using layers, when you just click this eye icon for that layer, simply yung image natin ay unaffected kasi yung changes na nagawa natin is only applied dun sa layer na kinreate natin kanina. So again, ulit po, so to create a new layer, I just have to click this icon. Pag di po kayo sure kung ano yung icon na yon, I advise na i-roll over nyo lang po yung mouse and then may mag-a-appear na tooltip dyan. Kahit saan pong icons meron mag-a-appear na tooltip like this. It says create new layer. And then, ayan po, pwede tayo ma-upgrade ng sarili nating layer. So, simply para lang tayo nag-create ng mga invisible stacks and then pinifill natin sila ng contents. So, ita-turn on ko po ulit yung layer like this. And of course, this is just like an unwanted content dun sa canvas ko. So, pwede ko itong i-delete actually. So, to delete a layer, let's say meron po kayong nagawang unwanted content, hindi siya bagay sa design, etc. So, you can just simply click this layer and then meron pong icon dito katabi ng create new layer, yung delete layer. Okay? So, aside from turning it off, when you turn off and turn on your layer, there's a chance na pwede mo pong mabalik yung contents. Much better yung turn off if sa tingin mo gusto mo pa siyang ibalik later on. But if you want to get rid of it permanently, you can just simply click that layer and then click this delete layer. Then may mag-appear na pop-up. Do you really want to delete it? Just click yes, and ayun, natanggal na po yung layer natin. So that's how layer works here in Photoshop. So ang nagawa po natin for layers is Basically, nakapag-create po tayo ng layer. Here, nakapag-create po ng layer and then nakapag-delete din ng layer. Okay. Next action with layers is how can we rearrange the contents. Okay. In my example here, in this Photoshop document, I have other layers kung napapansin niyo po. Meron tayong BG1, BG2, BG3, etc. So I have renamed them. So yung mga layers natin, technically, pwede po natin silang i-rename. Okay? So let's say, ito turn off ko muna yung other layers and then I'll just leave this on, yung aus natin. So paano ba i-rename yung layers? Okay, after natin mag-add, after natin mag-delete, rename naman po ngayon. So basically, ito lang po ang gagawin. Pwede po tayong mag-double click lang dun sa layer itself. Or you can right click and then hanapin lang po natin yung rename if makita natin. If wala, you can just simply double click this name. And as you can see, let's say, lagay natin ibon. Ayan, or birds. And then press enter if you're done. So by renaming layers, mas nagiging organized po yung Photoshop document natin at a later time. So mamaya pakita ko po bakit kailangan organize yung Photoshop documents natin. Okay? So that's how you rename your layers. I'll just turn this off. And then let me show you other layers na meron ako. Bakit iba yung appearance ng mga to compared dun sa other objects ko dyan? Ito pong first layer ko, meron siyang T icon meaning text yung content niya. While yung mga icons na to meaning meron tayong image na naka-insert. So basically when I turn this on, we'll see this image. And then this one is also an image. Also, although it appears like a text po sa inyo, but I created this using other software and then I save it as an image. So when I put it in Photoshop, technically image po yung format na nababasa ni Photoshop sa kanya. Now, next, for these layers naman po, you'll see that parang may folder icon style. And yes, they are technically folders po in Photoshop. So yung mga layers natin, paano pag dumami na yan, umabot na ng let's say 100 na yung layers mo or more than, so maganda ma-group natin sila. So para mag-group po natin yung layers, select po muna natin lahat ng layers natin dito. So to do multiple selections, i-click lang po tayo ng isang layer. Pagka-click po ng isang layer, just press or hold shift. And then if I click this third layer ko, pati po yung layer in between selected na din. Or if you want to click individual pero multiple selections ng layers, I just have to hold control and then click, tapos click. Lahat ng gusto nating layers na gusto natin ma-select or ma-group later on, we can just hold control. Okay? So again po, ulit, when I hold shift, click sa isang layer, nag-click tayo sa last, selected lahat pati in between. So shift po yung hinold ko doon, shift. Here naman, when I hold control and then click these layers, so lahat ng layers ito selected na, then now I can hit Control G. Kung meron po kayong screenshot nung kanina ng mga shortcuts, actually ito sila. So Control G is yung shortcut natin to group layers. So ginagawa po natin to avoid multiple stacking ng layers dun sa layers panel natin para mas organized. So ang gagawin ko lang po is Control G. And as you can see here, nagkaroon po tayo ng group. Ulit, select, Control G. Okay, so when I do that, bakit naka-turn on yung group pero wala tayong nakikita sa canvas? The reason is, yung mga gindrop ko po na layers ay naka-hide. So I just have to turn them on. And I can click this icon, yung triangle icon na to, just to show or expand or collapse yung contents niya ng group. Then also I can rename this, let's say, logo. So that's how you uh, use layers. So technically sa layers, nakapag-create na po tayo ng layer. Na-try na po natin, nakapag-delete, nakapag-turn on, turn off ng layers. Now, here, ito po yung isang example. So I have here another layout kung saan dun sa layers, I have multiple layers inside. Ayan po. And as you can see here in this BG1, meron din po tayong groups. So technically, paano mag-group ng layers? Control G dun sa mga selected layers lang. And as you can see here, I have multiple layers inside this single folder. So I do advise working with Photoshop na, kabisaduhin po natin yung shortcut na Control G to organize our layers. So, ayun. Also, this example, multiple layers din po yung meron tayo dyan. Even this one. So, this BG3 is much complex po yung layering niya kasi inside ng BG3, meron pa akong folders inside na pwede kong i-turn on and turn off. And then, as you can see, namumove ko po yung contents inside, right? Yan. So, possible po yan if selected po yung layer natin. Let's say, meron akong layer na thumbtacks. And then, when I click this layer, tapos, using my selection tool, basically, ito po yung selection tool or move tool, rather, ginagamit siya to move objects in this canvas. So, when you move your mouse pointer here, click and drag, namumove po natin yung object na basically contents no folder natin na to. Same with this thing. Ayan. So as you can see, namumove po natin yung objects. You can actually ayan, move objects here. Okay. Right. So right now, ang nagawa po natin is how to add new layer, delete, mag-group, turn on, turn off ng layers natin. Last part po nung about sa layers natin is how to rearrange your objects. So as you can see, I have too much objects here. And then when I drag this, ayan, may mga objects po na nag-overlap, which is sinadya po talaga natin mag-overlap. But what if gusto nating mag-interchange yung arrangement ng mga objects natin? Okay? So to do that, you just have to, let's say, select tayo ng object. Let's say this bottle. So itong bottle, tsaka yung stapler, actually ito siya. So yung bottle, nasa ilalim siya ng stapler, which is parang hindi tama. But if you want to interchange the layering arrangement ng mga to, you just have to click this bottle, tapos i-drag lang natin pataas. Yan. Pag may nakita po kayong parang nag-highlight na lines, it means pinapakita po ni Photoshop na yun yung magiging bagong position ng layer na dinadrag natin once na nirelease natin yung mouse. So, when I release this mouse pointer, you'll notice na yung bottle ngayon nasa over na siya nung stapler. The reason is, dito sa layering natin, mas nakataas na po yung bottle kaysa dun sa stapler. So, basically, that's how you arrange your objects. So, kung sa PowerPoint, sa Word, Microsoft Word, or other software, merong right-click, arrange, send to back, send to front. No? So, dito po sa Photoshop, it acts in a different way. Meron tayong layers. And then, yung mga layers na yon, hindi mo na kailangang i-right-click, send to back, bring to front. You just have to click and drag them above or below ng mga objects natin. So again, click and drag. Like that po. Okay, so yun po yung working with layers. Um, Before I proceed, I advise na to rewatch this video para dun sa mga, let's say, wala pang Photoshop installed on their PC and then want to try to install Photoshop, they can review yung mga discussions po natin dito. Okay po? So again, we are done with working with layers. I will now proceed with scaling and cropping images. So sometimes, pag meron tayong mga images na gusto nating ilagay sa mga learning materials natin, and then we wanted them to scale or maybe crop those images. So let's discuss this topic, scaling and cropping images. So let me close this Photoshop document. Sa Photoshop po, when you open up um, multiple files like this, may mag-open na tabs. So pwede natin sila i-close, yung mag-save. Oh yeah, this one is also an example na napakita po sana, but I think yung example natin kanina is enough to discuss layers. So this one has multiple layers then. So maybe let's try to create a new file in Photoshop. Okay. So what I have done is, ulitin ko po ulit. So again, i-click ko po yung file and then new. Okay? Pag new, mag-open po tayo ng bagong Photoshop document. Pag open, you just want to open an image, maybe mabilisan na edit ng image, gusto mo lang, let's say, tanggalin yung pimple or gusto mo lang i-bright yung image, etc. You can just open up that image. If you want to create a new file and then combine multiple images, I suggest click new. Okay? Since what we are talking about is, topic natin is scaling and cropping, I guess maybe we can try open for now. So file, open, and then I have assets of images actually here. So let me open up an image like here, and then click open. Yan. So nung nag-open up po ako ng image, actually, ito na siya ngayon. Ito yung actual size niya. We're not really sure anong size nito, but again, ang ginawa ko lang is mag-open ng file. Okay? So yung file na yon is an image file. Pakita ko lang po yung source file. So yung source file natin is this. Ayan siya. So what I did is file, open in Photoshop. That's another way opening your photos in Photoshop. And malinis na malinis po yung layers natin like this. So by default po, pag nag-open kayo ng image, you'll always see this icon, yung lock, yung nakalock po yung icon natin at first. So hindi mo siya basta may edit, but we can do this action. So kung naalala nyo po kanina, meron akong pinakitang shortcut on how to duplicate layer. So ito pala yung last action na hindi ko nagawa kanina for layers. So how to duplicate layers or why we duplicate layers basically. So we duplicate layers kasi ito po. Let's say hindi mo to dinuplicate. Ayan, let's say meron kang default image tapos nag-apply ka ng any changes. Then I'll explain later on yung mga ginagawa ko pong actions dito dun sa mga tools. Focus po muna tayo dun sa duplicate layer that I'm talking about. So if may changes ka na nagawa and then na-save mo na to dun sa mismong file, there is no undo na po. Let's say, save ko to into a different image. Mamaya pakita ko rin po paano mag-save. Ano yung proper file type na gagamitin natin sa pag-save. So let's say sinave mo yung image na yan. And then close. This one. Okay, so ito yung image na na-create ko lang po a while ago. So kapag niload natin to sa Photoshop, File, Open. So ito yung ginawa natin kanina, Actions. File, Open, and then uh, open up ko yung image na ginawa ko kanina. Let's say hindi ako nag-create ng backup. So if gusto natin tanggalin yung mga changes na nagawa natin here, there's no way to do that. Kailangan i-edit mo talaga siya, gamitan mo siya ng tools. Pero ito yung naging reason, ito yung one of the mistakes na nagagawa po nung iba sa Photoshop, kasi hindi sila nakakapag-duplicate ng layers, and also hindi sila nakapag-save ng backup. So here is the proper way. So open tayo ng file, open ko ulit yung image kanina. Ito po, ayan. And then to edit your image, always duplicate your original image. Lalo na pag malaki yan yung project. So the shortcut for duplicate layer is Ctrl-J. So when I hit Ctrl-J, you'll see that may nag-appear na another layer, but basically duplicate niya lang po yung original natin. So any changes na gawin mo man dito, and then di mo magustuhan yung changes na nagawa dyan, you can just simply delete this. But still, the original stays there. So safe po yung natin, artwork or project. So again, ano po yung shortcut for duplicate? Simply Ctrl-J. Okay. So now I'll turn this off, yung background, and then I can now do some changes dun sa image ko po dito. Now, before I proceed dun sa editing natin dito, let's say gusto ko siyang i-crop, gusto ko siyang i-scale, etc. So, first is maganda po siguro alamin natin kung paano mag-save ng Photoshop document. Okay, sa pag-save po ng document, meron tayong tinatawag na PSD file. So let's say, when I hit File, and then Save As, meron po tayong different options. Anong file lang gusto nating gamitin when you're saving your file. Ito po yung nasa pinaka-top, yung .psd. Yung .psd is, every time na isave mo siya sa .psd, pwede mo siyang balikan ulit. Yung mga changes na ginawa mo, pwede mo pa rin i-modify, may layer siya, etc. Pag JPEG, ito na po yung rendered version. So let me show you an example. So let's say my file, then .psd. Okay. So right now, ito yung my file.psd po natin. Meron tayong two layers. Pwede akong mag-add ng another layer. Tapos, I'll do some changes. Yung ginagamit ko po kaninang tool, ito po yung brush tool. So basically, parang sa Microsoft Paint, merong brush din po doon. You just have to click this. Tapos, you can double-click this foreground color. Then may mag-appear na pop-up. So you can change the color you want. Tapos, do some changes. Okay. So we have 3 layers now. Then I can click File and then hit Save. When I do save, automatically po yung nasa save natin is yung PSD file. Okay? So let me close this file, my file.psd, and then open natin yung original image natin kanina, which is this one. Yung JPEG file, yung .jpg. So yung .jpg, ito yun. Ito po yung rendered version, rasterized version na image. Technically, by default, isang layer lang meron siya lagi kasi compressed na po siya, kumbaga. Yun po yung JPEG file. Pag inopen naman natin yung file na sinave ko kanina, yung .psd. So when you see these icons, actually they are the PSD files. So when I click my file and then click open, you'll see that present pa rin po yung backup layer ko at saka yung additional layer na nagawa ko. In short, kapag .psd, ito yung editable version pa. Pwede mo pang i-turn off ito, turn on, etc. Do some changes, pwede mo balikan yung unfinished work mo kanina. Pero kapag .jpg, as in this one, compressed na po siya, rendered na siya. So, ang gagawin natin from now on is mag-save tayo ng .psd. Okay, game. So, I'll go back dun sa scaling and cropping images. Scaling, pag sinabi po natin scaling images, we are basically resizing the images. Okay po. So, to resize your image, ito yung kailangan natin na shortcut, yung Control-T or free transform. Okay, game. So, when I hit Control-T, again po, Control-T, free transform. When I hit Control-T, you'll see here, may mga handles na pong nag-a-appear. And I'm sure you're familiar with this if you have already added some images, let's say kahit sa Microsoft Word lang or PowerPoint. And then, pwede natin itong i-drag, of course, to scale or to resize your image. So, paano po ulit yon? Again, just hit Control-T for transform, as in transform. Control-T and then resize your image. Now, I do not recommend this style of scaling kasi nadideform po yung image natin actually when you do this. So, meron po tayong technique para hindi ma-deform or kumbaga ma-distort yung image natin. So, para hindi po mangyari yon, after you hit Control-T, transform, hold nyo lang po yung shift sa keyboard. Okay? As in shift. So, when I hold shift sa keyboard, tapos idadrag ko po yung handle ko dito, click and drag, naka-hold pa rin po yung shift dun sa keyboard ko while I'm dragging this. As you can see, uniform po yung pag-i-scale natin or pag-resize ng image natin. Once you're done, hit enter. Okay? Undo is Control-Z. And again, transform, Control-T, tapos hold shift para nare-resize natin yung image in a uniform way. Okay, game. So since alam na po natin yung pag-resize, maliban po doon, you can explore other handles like this. As in, kapag tinapat natin dito sa corner na to, and then nag-click and drag po ako, pwede natin i-rotate yung image actually, like that. And then, if you're happy with your style ng image as of now, just hit enter. Okay? If not, Control-T, tapos, let's say na-decide mo na hindi mo na siya i-rotate, hindi mo na siya i-resize, just hit escape sa keyboard. So, escape and enter. Escape is cancel. Enter is confirm. Again, escape, cancel po yun ng resizing or almost every action sa Photoshop, pag escape, cancel po yun. Pag enter, confirm. Okay? So, I have now, ang balak ko pong gawin dito is gawin ko siyang background actually, and then mag-add tayo ng multiple images. Okay? So, to add multiple images in a single file document, yung my file.psd, simply, I can open up my folder, yung folder no mga images ko, and then I think we can drag this object dun sa Photoshop. So to do that, on your folder, you can just drag this, click, tapos drag lang po natin sa Photoshop, and then release yung mouse to confirm. May mag-a-appear na handles at first, but you just again have to hit enter. Enter again is to confirm. Confirm na ilalagay na po natin yung image sa Photoshop document. Again, I'd like to add additional more images. Pwede din po natin gamitin dito yung shortcut natin na multiple selection, yung mag-hold ng control. So when you click an object, here let's say, i-add ko itong cherries na to, tsaka itong grapes. So nakaklik ako doon sa cherries, i-hold ko yung control, and then I'm going to click yung grapes image natin dito. So para multiple selections, na-select ko sila both, and then I can just drag them here in Photoshop, drag and then release. Confirm, again po, is enter, tapos enter. Now, one thing you'll notice here now in your Photoshop document is we have now multiple images available. Okay? So, yung mga images po natin ngayon, we have yung grapes and cherries and strawberries. Gusto ko silang i-scale down yung size. So, paano po yung pag-i-scale down ng size? You can just hit Control T and then i-hold ko yung Shift. In-hold ko po yung Shift para pag drag ko po yung handle na to, uniform yung size niya, hindi na di-distort yung image natin. And then you just have to hit Enter to confirm. Okay? Ang gagawin ko po dito is gusto ko lahat sila sabay-sabay ma-scale down. So to do that, yung diniscuss po natin kanina, paano yung multiple selection. So click lang po tayo ng isang layer, hold mo yung Shift, tapos click mo yung nasa dulo na layer. So lahat ng in-between layers ngayon selected na. And then, you just have to hit Control T. So mag-appear na po yung handles. Huwag pong kakalimutan i-hold yung Shift para when you drag this, uniform yung images natin. Like that. I can also move these images actually lahat sabay-sabay as long as they are all selected still. So I guess this size is enough. Hit Enter sa keyboard. As long as selected pa rin po yung mga layers natin dito sa layers panel, as you can see, tatlo yung selected. When I move this, lahat sila na-move na din po. Okay? Now, I will click here outside ng layers panel para ma-release yung selection. And then, pwede ko ngayong i-click yung isang layer lang, let's say yung grapes. Tapos, i-drag ko tong grapes dito sa right side. Yung cherries dito sa gitna. I guess we need to scale down them again a little bit. So, para mas uniform lang yung size. Okay. All right. So now after I've done these actions, you can always hit Control S or File Save. Okay. So again, sinave ko po siya ng .tsd. Okay. So again, katulad discussion kanina, pag .tsd, pag inopen mo siya ulit later on, nandito pa rin yung mga layers natin. Still editable pa rin po yung Photoshop document natin. Okay. Next is, I would like you to introduce this type tool. Okay. Basically, you want to add some text. Simply click lang po natin yung type tool. Like that. When you click this, may mag-appear po na format dito for that type tool. Or also, meron po tayong characters panel here available para mag-appear yung other settings ng text na gusto nating i-add. So, balak ko po dito mag-add ng text somewhere here. So, let's do that. So text or type tool, then click po tayo dito. Let's say, fresh fruits. Yeah. Okay, so when you do that action, when you click this type tool and then click ka anywhere dito sa ating Photoshop document, you'll notice here in the layers panel na automatically po may layer na na maki-create. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-click ng create new layer dito sa ibaba. So again, just do that. Click lang dito using that type tool, and then pwede nang mag-type ng text na gusto natin. What if click natin yung move tool to move this? Okay, pwede yun. But what if gusto ko siyang i-edit ulit? Double click lang ba? No. So to edit your text, you just have to click this type tool again. And then, please paki-notice po yung mouse pointer natin. If yung mouse pointer natin meron siyang marquee, rectangular marquee area outside, meaning pag nag-click ka sa Photoshop document, mag-create ka ng panibagong text. Pero kapag dinrag mo yung mouse pointer here, and then nawala po yung rectangular marquee, if napansin niyo po yon, yung mga dotted lines outside, pag nawala na yun, and then you click here, meaning you are enabling this layer to be edited. So pwede natin double click ngayon, pwede natin i-change yung font. Let's say, gamitan ko ng other font, like that. And then, pwede rin pong select yung specific word or letters or characters. Tapos dito sa characters panel, yung may A, click lang natin siya. And then, as long as this text is selected, para Microsoft Word lang din po, as long as it is selected, pwede mo i-click yung color, pwede mo mag-select na other color here. Like that, and then hit OK. Click Move Tool para ma-move natin yung text. Gusto ko siyang i-resize, pwede kong i-click ulit itong text tool, tapat natin yung mouse pointer. Pag nawala na po yung rectangular marquee, you can now click this. Tapos select natin yung text, and then we can adjust yung size. Click Move Tool every time matapos natin gamitin yung other tools, and then yun. So meron na po tayong layout actually here. We have combined yung multiple images dun sa natin, background image. I can rename this as, let's say, PG image, like that. And yun, meron tayong text. And yun po. So what we have done now so far is nakapag-add tayo ng text, na-change natin yung color, and then na-add natin itong mga images natin. Alam na natin yung multiple selections, alam na natin yung rearrangement ng mga objects sa layers, and technically po, those are one of the most important or core skills na dapat alam po natin sa Photoshop. Okay? So now, I can just click File and then Save para ma-save natin yung document natin na .psd. But what if gusto mo tong gamitin, let's say, gusto mo siyang ilagay sa video, gusto mong ilagay, let's say, in another format, let's say Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, etc., or you just want to preview it on the screen as an image, dito na po pumapasok yung Save As. Okay? So when you click Save As, yung PSD, meron na po kasi tayo ng .psd. Again, gusto po natin ng rendered version na, yung compressed version na. So, meron akong folder dito, save natin. I'm not going to save it as PSD kasi meron na po ako ng .psd. So, I just have to click this, yung JPEG. Okay, so marami po ang other formats na gusto nyong itry, but JPEG is the most commonly used, of course, as the compressed and rendered image file. So let's say My File, and then click Save. And then may mag-appear po na JPEG options. Kung gusto po ninyo na maganda yung quality ng image, you just have to adjust this. Ayan, dito po sa pinakadulo na yan, maximum is 12, progressive, scans 5. Ayan, kung gusto po talaga mas okay yung quality, and then click OK. Alright, so we just have save a file. Check natin. So ngayon po, ito yung output folder ko actually. And then ito yung my file. So when I double click it, ito na po yung image natin. Okay, take note po, kapag JPEG file yung image natin, again, wala na po yung mga layers na to. Hindi na sila may edit kapag JPEG. Pero kapag .psd, as you can see here, editable pa rin po yung mga layers natin. Kahit i-close mo yan, tapos open natin siya ulit. Actually, pwede kong i-close yung buong Photoshop file. Like that. And then I have yung my file.psd po natin kanina, which is this one. When I double click this file, as long as meron po kayong installed na Photoshop, mag-open po yung file. Okay? So yung JPEG, kahit sa platform, nag-open po yung JPEG file. Yung .psd, kailangan meron kang Photoshop installed on your PC. Okay? Alright, so ayun po, napag-scale na tayo ng images. Okay, cropping images. Cropping, actually common na rin po ito sa other applications natin. But to show you how cropping works in Photoshop, meron po tayong tinatawag na crop tool here dito sa toolbox. Again, pag di nyo po alam yung tool, gusto nyo po mag-explore ng tool, just move over your mouse, may mag-appear na tooltip, and focus po tayo dito ngayon sa crop tool. So when I click this crop tool, may mag-appear po na handles dito actually, kung mapansin po ninyo. Ayan. And then I can just drag this like that. Ang pinagkaiba po ng crop tool dun sa transform, si transform, nire-resize niya yung buong image. Si crop tool, from the word crop, as in, kinakat po natin yung other portion ng image. Like that. Then when you hit enter, the whole Photoshop document will apply that specific size po. So that's just cropping works in Photoshop. Ganun lang po yung cropping. Control Z. And next po tayo. Okay, so one of the major skills bakit ginagamit ng iba yung Photoshop is they are able to select images in Photoshop. Pwedeng palitan yung background, pwedeng gawing transparent yung image. Let's say gusto niyo pong mag-add ng image, ilagay natin sa Microsoft PowerPoint or Keynote or any software na transparent yung background, pwede po iyon. Basta alam natin kung paano mag-select ng image. And then, saving file types. Again po, para di lang po natin makalimutan, PSD, ito po yung editable version. JPG, tsaka yung PNG. Ito po yung other format na pwede natin i-save yung image natin. Pero PNG is basically, ginagamit siya if you want to have an image with transparent background. Okay, so now let's proceed with selections and ano pa yung pwede natin gawin pag alam na natin yung selections in Photoshop. Okay, so I have assets of images here. Maybe, how about this? So, so let's say we have a Photoshop challenge for now. Gusto natin gawin yung ganitong klaseng layout. So we are actually going to combine images. Kinombine ko lang po yung image na to, yung mountains, yung other background, sinange na yung background, naglagay tayo ng text, colors, etc. So magagawa po natin yan if you know how to select objects in Photoshop or images. So again, target po natin to later. Okay. So let me open up a new document. Tapos here, pag nag-click po tayo doon sa new, may nakaset po sa akin no width 1366 by 768, 72 resolution. Yung width and height ko po, ito po yung sinet ko kasi ito yung actual resolution nung monitor ko. Kasi ang gusto ko for my image is ma-display lang siya full screen doon sa laptop, pwede na po yung size na to. You can still change it. Let's say gusto mo 1000 by 1000 pixels. And like what I've said earlier, meron din pong preset size yung mga presentation apps po natin like PowerPoint and Keynote. Let's say PowerPoint, gusto mo mag-create ng PowerPoint background. So ito yung size na gagamitin mo. Again, you want to create a PowerPoint background. So ito yung size 1280 by 720. So kung familiar po kayo sa mga movies na may nakalagay na 720p yung dimensions or resolutions, ito po actually yung size niya. Okay? And then sa mga gumagamit naman po ng Mac, gagamit sila ng Keynote. So 1920 by 180 pixels. Make sure pixels po yung nakaset kasi po pag inches yan, super large image na magagawa natin. Resolution, how many how many pixels meron tayo per resolution na meron tayo? 72 is enough. Okay na yan. But for me, 1366 by 768 works. Sariling width and height. Color mode, make sure it is RGB. Kung i-display lang po sa screen. CMYK, kapag you want your image to be printed. Grayscale, hindi po masyadong gamit. Pero grayscale, as in wala tayong makikitang other colors aside from gray, black, white, etc. So, I'm going to use RGB. So again, ito po yung settings. Kayo po bahala sa width and height. Resolution, pwede pong 72. Max po natin is 300. Kaso, the more na lumalaki yung resolution na nilalagay natin, mas lumalaki yung file size. So, kung di naman natin kailangan ng super laki na file size, pwede na po yung 72 by default. And then click OK. So again, I advise po na to rewatch this video if you don't have Photoshop yet and then gusto nyo pong i-review yung actions na ginagawa natin ngayon. Okay, just rewatch lang po. Then click OK. Alright, so I have this plain Photoshop document. It is untitled for now. So save muna natin with a file name. Let's say my file 2.psd para editable po yung version. Then click save. Once I've done that, ang focus po natin ngayon is to make selections, right? So again, ang target po natin mamaya is magkaroon po tayo ng output ng something like this. But before we proceed working with this output, didiscuss ko po muna paano yung selection. Okay? So, meron po tayong assets here. Pwede mo i-click muna yung file, open. For demonstration purposes, didiscuss ko po muna yung selection. So let's say, meron tayo netong moon. Then click open. So this one is another Photoshop document. Babalikan po natin mamaya itong si myfile2.psd. Dito po muna tayo dun sa image na inopen natin right now. Okay, so what if gusto kong kuhanin yung moon na to and then pwede ko siyang i-drag somewhere. Katulad po nagyaw natin kanina, meron tayong kinombine na images. So gusto ko siyang combine sa other image later on. So to do that, kailangan alam natin i-select yung object na ito. Okay? Now, since it is locked by Photoshop, automatically nakalock siya. Ito yung mga selection natin. Anything changes na gusto natin gawin dito at a later time, baka hindi mag-work. So again, duplicate layer yung way natin. Tapos hide natin to. Now, I would like to select this object or this moon. Now, pagdating po sa selection, ito po yung mga tools na pwede natin gamitin or magamit. But I'd like you to introduce yung lasso tools na tinatawag po. Meron tayong tinatawag na lasso tool, polygonal lasso tool, and magnetic lasso tool. Si lasso tool is a free-form way ng pagsaselect. Let's say gusto mong i-select yung part na to, like that. Naka-select yung layer 1 ko, so ito lang yung magiging affected dun sa selection ko. Ulit, so i-click ko po yung lasso tool, select ko yung part na to, like that, as in free form lang po para lang kayo nag-drawing na any oval shape. When you hit delete dun sa keyboard, delete. So, technically, na delete natin yung area na sinelect natin. Okay? So, ito po yung power ng selection. Pag may selection ka na, pwede mo nang gawin yung other actions after that. So, let's say gusto kong i-select tong moon. Kaso, hindi perfect yung selection kapag lasso tool lang gamit kasi freeform siya. But when you do this, meron po tayong nakikitang mga parang marching ants, animation, etc. Indicating na selected na yung area na to from this layer 1. Okay? Now, balikan po natin yung shortcut ng duplicate layer kanina. So when I hit Ctrl-J, maduduplicate po yung, hindi yung layer itself, but rather yung, hide ko po ito, but rather yung selected area lang kanina. Okay? So when you do that, pwede na nating i-move ngayon to using move tool. Pwede ko itong i-move, na-drag ko lang siya, malabas ng Photoshop document, pupunta dito sa other document, yung myfile.tsd. Yes, I'm still holding my mouse. Ayan, ito po yun. Then when I release my mouse pointer, as you can see, na-drag ko po dito yung selected object ko. So that's another way on how you place other image from other Photoshop document. Nagawa na po natin siyang possible kasi nakapag-select po tayo. But it is not that good enough kasi ang ginawa natin is basically lasso tool lang. I mean, yun yung ginamit natin tool, lasso tool, very free-form style. So let's try the other way ng selection. I'll call this layer as lasso tool. So, lasso tool lang ginamit dun sa output na to. Next, this one naman, I'm going to click polygonal lasso tool. Okay, baka po may magtanong, paano nyo po na-appear or paano nag-a-appear yung polygonal lasso tool, magnetic lasso tool, kasi dito sa toolbox, lasso tool lang yung nakikita natin. You just have to click, tapos hold nyo lang po yung mouse pointer doon sa toolbox para mag-appear yung other tools. Other way is ganito po, tapat nyo lang po yung mouse pointer and then right click, then mag-a-appear na po yung other options. Like that. So right click, other option, lasso tool. So right click, polygonal. Polygonal, from the term polygon, we're talking about sides. Okay, meron tayong mga, pwede tayong mag-create actually ng mga polygons using this selection. So let's say, i-click ko muna yung layer 1. Ito kasi yung gusto natin i-select. And then pwede akong mag-click lang po ng click. Ayan, so click, release. Again, I released my mouse pointer. Still active pa rin yung ating magnetic lasso tool. I mean, polygonal lasso tool. So, when you click, nakapag-create po tayo ng polygon technically. Then, when you click yung origin ng ating polygonal lasso tool, ito na po yung ating selection. So, when you hit Ctrl-J ulit, hide ko yung original image, you'll see that yung selection natin is or creates a polygon actually with so many sides. We can try to select this as close as possible, but again, since yung selection natin is circle, hindi po perfect yung tool na ito, yung polygonal lasso tool for this kind of selection. So I'll rename this example as polygonal. So again, si lasso tool, freeform siya. See polygonal, based from polygons, based from sizes. And then here, ito naman po yung pinaka most powerful na lasso tool sa lahat, which is si magnetic lasso tool. Like as in from the term magnet, yung mga marching ants na nakita natin kanina for selections, automatically nag-a-adapt dun sa shape na kinlik natin. Let's say, again, gusto kong i-select to, po tayo magkamali doon sa mga actions, make sure nakaselect mo na yung layer na gusto nating select. And then, let's say, click ako dito sa edge ng moon. Yan. Kung naalala nyo po yung actions ng polygonal lasso tool, click lang po ako ng click, kahit i-release ko yung mouse, still active pa rin yung selection. So katulad po nito, na-release ko yung mouse pointer, and then pag dinrag ko po yung mouse, hindi na po ako nakaklick, dinadrag ko lang yung mouse pointer, you'll see that here, automatically, nag-a-adapt po yung selection natin actually dun sa object. Like that. So ulit, again, click dun sa edges, tapos move lang po natin siya around dun sa object as close as possible. Like that. So you get the idea po here. So when I click this origin selection, you'll see that yung marching ants natin, yung selection natin is quite close, very close dun sa object na gusto natin select. When I hit Control J, and then i-hide ko yung original, you'll see here that yung moon natin is almost perfectly selected po. Okay? So again, anong tool yung ginamit natin? Yung tool na ginamit ko po dito is the magnetic lasso tool. So maganda po ito kapag gagawa tayo ng objects na may transparent background. So let's say, yung nakita nyo po pala mga checkered dito sa background na to, it simply represents transparency. So as in blanco po yan, wala po tayong nakita dyan sa final output. So when I click this crop tool, yung katulad na ginawa po natin kanina, like that, and then drag natin here, and then hit enter. Technically, yung ginawa po natin ngayon is na-select natin yung moon, kinrap natin yung size, then pwede na natin siyang i-save with a transparent background. Now, how to save this with a transparent background? So simply po, click lang natin yung file, and then save as. Tapos, dun sa folder ko na output, I'll select PNG. Again po, PNG yung format kung gusto natin ng transparent. Yan, moon underscore transparent. So may nag-appear na PNG options, just click none kung gusto nating hindi siya compressed or hindi mabawasan yung quality. Just click OK now. Then when we go back dun sa folder natin, output 2, you'll see here, format po nito is a PNG image. When I double click this image, transparent po yan. Pwede natin siyang i-drag anywhere or let's say put anywhere. Let's say PowerPoint, Photoshop. Actually, let's try it. So, i-drag ko po itong moon transparent na to dito sa ating myfile.psd. So, i-drag ko siya and then release. You'll notice that wala po tayong nakikitang any black around that moon kasi po it is saved as PNG, as in transparent po. So, that's how you save transparent images. Kung gusto naman po natin hindi transparent, gusto natin may white around it, just click File, Save As, and then let's say JPEG, and then save. Oops, this output folder, say moon, non-transparent, click Save. You'll see here now, dito sa ating output folder na meron tayong, just click OK. Okay, now sa folder, meron na tayong Moon non-transparent. I can now drag this dito sa ating myfile.psd. So to do that, drag natin and then release. So if we compare now yung mga images natin na to, yan, the one has some white background kasi JPEG po yung file type niya. Then the other one naman is actually transparent kasi PNG yung file type. So again, like what I've said earlier, PNG yung transparent, JPEG non-transparent, PSD yung editable file format. Na-try din po natin yung making selections actually. So ang purpose po ng create ng selections is to use your image in other way. Pwede nating ilagay sa other platform like PowerPoint or other software, even Photoshop, para mas okay yung ano natin, output. Let's say ayaw mo nang may white background, just save it as PNG file or transparent. And okay. Now, I'd like to show you another option. Open po natin ulit yung image. Okay, now, so yung na-try po natin kanina is yung magnetic lasso tool, which is much better options other than these two lasso tools. So meron pa pong another selection tool na pwede nating magamit. Okay, can you see my screen now again? Okay. All right. So another way on how to select your image is ito po yung pinaka-easiest way. Okay? So katabi po ng mga lasso tools is yung quick selection and magic wand tool. Let me start with quick selection tool. So si quick selection tool, pwede kang mag-click sa let's say sa isang uniform area or color. Let's say click ako dito and then drag. You'll notice na yung color na opposite sa kanya or hindi niya kasing color, let's say something like that, ay hindi na niya isa-select. So yung sinelect lang niya is basically yung black area dito. Ulit. So quick selection tool and then select this black area. And then I can now hit delete. Then Control D. Control D po yung deselect. I'm not sure if I have added that sa ating selection. Let me add it. Control D. Deselect. So let's say mali po yung selection natin and ayaw natin siyang, gusto natin ulitin yung selection, just hit Control D or deselect. So yung ginawa ko po is, again, kinlik ko po yung quick selection tool here, tapos na-click and drag ako dito sa black area, and then when I hit delete, so na-remove na po yung black area. Then same thing, pwede mo siyang i-crop, i-save transparent, etc. One more other way of selection, ito po yung mas madali. pinakamadali is yung magic wand tool. It's like a really a magic wand kasi one click dito sa layer na to, I mean dito sa color na to, as in one click lang, automatically selected na yung mga uniform colors na yon. When you hit delete, so mas uniform yung color natin. Medyo kailangan natin ng patience sa pagsaselect when it comes to magnetic lasso tool, lalo na kapag medyo complex yung shape. Pero kapag madalian lang yung background colors, you can simply use quick selection or magic wand tool. Like that. Okay, game. So let's proceed. After making selections and then saving, let's try to remove objects from other images. Okay, so ano yung tinatawag nating remove objects? Yung pag-remove mo ng objects is, unlike sa ginawa ko, selection talaga yung focus ko po kanina. What I mean, pag sinabing remove objects is this. Minsan, meron po tayo mga images na let's say, gusto nating i-edit or gamitin kaso merong unwanted objects. For example, let's have this one. So, let's say nag-capture ka ng photo, then gusto mong gamitin yung image na to, and then suddenly napansin mo bakit merong bird like that, or parang pwede kayang tanggalin yung boat dito somehow, or yung bird dyan. So, pwede po yan sa Photoshop. That's what I mean when I say removing objects from images. Minsan may mga images kasi na like this, gusto mo gamitin to as background kaso may mga unwanted images, maybe yung cat gusto mo silang i-remove this image, pwede po natin yung gawin with Photoshop. So, let's try to do that. Let's open up those images. Try muna natin dun sa may street. Alright. So I have opened up an image and then background image natin. So again, before doing anything else, nag-backup po ako ng layer, nag-duplicate ako ng layer. Tapos let's say save natin to. Save ko siya as .psd dito sa aking output folder. Let's say street.psd. Now, we can start working on this image. So, let's say sabihin natin unwanted images or objects yung mga cats na nandito sa ating sample. So, pwede kaya natin silang i-remove or to get rid of them without cutting specific area. Let's say lasso tool. Ganito po ba yung tinutukoy natin? It says select tapos delete? No. Because doing that will just ruin your image. So, meron po tayong other tool na pwedeng gamitin. And ito po yung mga healing tools po natin. Let's say healing brush tool, spot healing. But I do advise using patch tool for this example. Okay? So, let's click patch tool. Again, sir, paano po nag-appear yung options na yon? Just right-click your tool and then mag-appear na po yung other options. Then you'll see patch tool here. Now, how patch tool works? Okay? So, ganito lang po. Gusto mo ma-remove yung cat na to. Gusto natin ma-remove yung object na yan. Again, na-click ako sa patch tool. Now, katulad ng lasso tool, i-select mo lang yung area na to. Like that. I'm trying to select the cat as close as possible dun sa shape niya. And then, when you do that, yung mag-appear na parang sa selection tool, parang lasso tool, may marching ants, you can still now click this selected object and then drag it somewhere na kung sa tingin natin para magpa-pattern dun sa ating output. Then when you release your mouse pointer, then Control D, deselect. Ayan. So parang magically na-remove mo natin yung object from our image. Ulit. Again. So select po natin yung image na to. Like that. Let's say ito yung unwanted image natin. And then still, as long as it is still selected, click and drag mo lang po siya dun sa clean area na kung sa tingin natin pwede natin i-replicate again. Like that. And then release your mouse, Control D, deselect, and ayun na po. Yung original image natin has been now edited and modified. Compared dun sa original image po kanina, yung edited image, wala na po yung mga unwanted objects natin. Ito po yung original natin, and here's the edited version. So that's how you remove unwanted objects dun sa ating image. So still again, meron tayong other example here. So open up with Photoshop. So file, open, and then how about this one? This one is a little bit challenging siguro kasi medyo large yung area, but as long as you get more practice, let's say it's a patch tool. Let's say select muna natin yung area na to, midword. Tapos drag ko siya somewhere here. Like that. You'll see some traces but still major or majority ng part niya na-remove na natin. So I just keep selecting some parts and then move dun sa area, dun sa clean area or wide area natin like that. And yun. So it might not be as clean as possible. Baka meron pa tayong other rework na pwedeng magawa dito para mas malinis. But as you can see, that's how patch tool works. Okay? So na-remove mo natin yung objects natin from other image. So that's how you remove objects from images. Okay, game. Proceed po tayo with this text tool, paint bucket tool, type tool. Actually yung type tool nagamit na po natin siya kanina. Okay. Maybe I'll proceed with this my file to.psd, and then my output should be something like maybe something like this. So mag-add tayo ng text, add tayo ng konting background, etc. So since alam na po natin yung selection, removing background, etc., let's try to work on that example. So dadrag ko itong image sa Photoshop. Pwede natin siyang i-scale muna before we confirm. Then enter. Yung image na nilagay po natin is malaki naman yung dimension, so hindi naman po siya totally mag-blur kapag super zoom in. So it works well on this example so far. Now I'm going to drag another image here. So magko-combine po tayo ng other image. Let's say na-drag ko tong planet na to image like that. Just hit enter, and then another image like this. I-stretch lang po natin siya ng konti. Actually, hindi siya ganun ka-konti. Maybe you can find other more good image or much larger image than this. But for this demonstration example, okay na po. Now, gusto kong magkaroon ng backup images from these images. So I just have to apply multiple selection and then Control J, and then pwede na natin i-hide yung mga original images. Next is Gusto nating i-modify yung image na to. So, to further modify, kapag may nakita po kayong icon like this dito sa layer, meaning we still need to rasterize these images. So, pag ni-rasterize ko siya, pwede na siyang i-edit. Technically, ganun po yung reason bakit natin siya nira-rasterize. So, right-click, and then just find this rasterize layer. Again, dito po sa may planet, right-click, rasterize layer. If you notice, nawawala na po yung icon dito. So, kasi nara-rasterize na natin. Right-click, rasterize layer. Bakit po nira-rasterize? Para much further ma-edit natin yung images. Now, gusto ko palitan yung background nito into this one. So, I just use maybe quick selection tool, even magic wand tool, or magnetic. Nasa inyo po yun kung ano yung mas feel niyo gamitin na tool. I'll try magic wand tool. So, si magic wand tool, pag nag-click tayo dyan, hindi niya na-select buo or lahat ng part na to kasi medyo gradient po yung dating. When I say gradient, there are mixing of two or more colors or blending of two or more colors actually. We can do quick selection tool. Ayan. So technically, na-select po yung part na yon. When I hit delete sa keyboard, so technically, na-remove na po natin yung background. Then we can apply this. So kagaya po ng discussion kanina, paano po i-rearrange yung mga layers natin? You just have to click and drag maybe below this mountain image. So para mag-appear yon as background. And then this one then, gusto kong tanggalin yung maybe yung black area niya. Again, for demonstration purposes, it may not be the most cleanest way how to do it. But nga pala, dito po sa ating magic wand tool, we can adjust yung tolerance niya or in short, parang strength ng magic wand natin. Let's say when I try, let's say 15, I guess, like that. So para hindi masyadong ma-select yung ibang part. Control-T to transform your image. Tapos drag natin below dun sa mountain. And then to further adjust the image nung ano po natin, I mean color adjustments ng mga images natin, we can perform image adjustments po. Okay, image adjustments. So ano yung tinatawag nating image adjustments? So ito yung common ngayon na actually actions na meron sa mga applications, sa mga Android phones, may mga applications ng image editing softwares, may mga ganito na sila. So what I'm going to do here is to select my layer, as in this one. Tapos, click ko yung image, and then adjustments. And then ito po yung other options natin. You can adjust the brightness, contrast, the vibrance, hue and saturation, etc. So, explore nyo lang po ito. Medyo madami sila to explore one by one. We'll just adjust depende dun sa preference po natin. So, maybe I'll try to work with hue and saturation. Like that. So, as you can see, medyo nag-change ng color or yung hue color ng ating background. I-click ko po yung mountain, image, adjustments, tapos adjust din natin yung color. Yan. To make it close as possible dun sa ating background. Tapos yung sa planet, i-click ko din yung planet, image, adjustments, hue and saturation. Yan, so try and try lang po dun sa mga adjustments natin. Like that. So again, it may not be the cleanest Photoshop edit you'll see now, but you can see the output na from this, from the original images natin. Yan. So we can perform multiple actions. Actually, mas marami pa pong actions pwede natin gawin dyan. But again, for the layers, let me check this opacity. Okay, pag sinabi pong opacity, ito yung transparency ng image natin. So when I click this, yung layer ng planet, and then i-adjust ko yung opacity, technically, i-adjust ko yung transparency ng image. So for you to see, ayan po. So na-adjust natin transparency ng image natin when we adjust this opacity. So let me do that. Aside from hue and saturation, you can still click image adjustments, that's color balance, like that, to further modify your image. And then, meron tayo kaninang lasso tool, polygonal, magnetic lasso tool. Meron din po tayong rectangular marquee tool. Ginagamit din po sila for selection. Let's say, i-click ko tong background, tapos mag-select ako ng rectangular marquee. When I hit delete, as you can see, yung selection natin na-delete in a rectangular way. So other selection tools din po sila, but I'm going to use this in a different way. Mag-create ako ng new layer, like that here. And then, let me select this area. Okay, so I have this layer 1, as in blanco lang po si layer 1, wala po siya na-select na pixels or images here actually. So, ang balak po dito is to select this area and then I would like to fill in some color here. So, katulad po sa Paint, Microsoft Paint, meron din po ditong Paint Bucket tool. So, I'm sure almost lahat po dito sa mga viewers natin ay alam na po kung paano ba Paint Bucket tool sa Paint. So, it acts the same way dito sa Photoshop. So, nag-select ako dito sa layer 1, Paint Bucket tool, and then ito po yung foreground color. Kung ano yung nakaset na color, yun yung mag-a-appear, yun yung magiging color ng Paint Bucket tool. So, meaning when I click in this area, as long as I select this layer 1, magkaroon siya ng ganitong red color. So, I don't like that red color. I-click ko yung foreground, double click, then pwede kong i-select ngayon yung medyo darker. Maybe, let's select a black color. Then click OK. Then I have now this black color. I can now click this area para magkaroon ng black color yung rectangular area natin. Now, Control D to deselect. And if you still remember yung pinakita po kanina, in-adjust ko yung opacity ng object natin here, yung layer opacity niya. Again, 31 lang. So ito, i-adjust ko din po yung transparency niya. Yung opacity niya. So, adjust natin ito lower value. So, para magkaroon tayo ng ganong effect. Yan. Then after that, I can click this type tool. Tapos mag-add ako ng text. Okay? So, click ako dito sa area na to. It says space. And then, ito yung character panel para to further edit this. So, doon sa mga magtatanong po bakit wala akong character panel, you just have to click window and then make sure yung character panel naka-check. So, when you click that, mag-a-appear po yung character panel. So, any modifications here, pwede nyo explore po to further modify your text. So, select po ako ng font. Tapos, when I click this area again, yung font color niya. Tapos, Pwede natin gamitan ng Control-T, yung transform, para ma-adjust yung size ng text natin ng mas mabilis actually. Ang ginawa ko po is nag-duplicate po ako ng layer. Double-click. Say that. Control-T. So yung mga actions po natin kanina, actually ina-apply lang po natin. Yan. So, lahat po ng actions na ina-apply ko po ngayon ay yung mga na-discuss po kayo na. If you missed something dun sa mga actions na ina-apply ko po ngayon, you can just again rewatch the video. So somehow, na-perform na po natin yung ganitong output. Okay. So, na-save ko na siya. Ito po, extra. Aside from image adjustments na ginawa natin, meron tayong layer styles. Yung layer styles po natin, pwede nating i-apply sa lahat ng mga layers na to. But technically I'm going to apply it dun sa text natin. So ito, para magkaroon siya ng layer styles, kapag double-click dun sa mismong name, meaning po nun rename. Okay? Pero pag nag-double-click po dun sa space or white space area ng layer na to, magkakaroon po ng pop-up. And ito po yung tinatawag ko na layer styles. Again, ulit, when you double-click dito sa white space area natin ng layer, yung mag-appear na layer style, and dito po natin may explore yung other options. Again, I advise na explore nyo po lahat to kasi pwede po natin ma-apply ito. Let's say color overlay para ma-change yung color nung layer na sinelect mo. Pwede natin uncheck. Pwede mo siyang lagyan ng outer glow para magkaroon siya ng glow. But what I'm going to do is yung drop shadow. I-click ko yung layer na drop shadow. Adjust natin yung value. And ina-apply po natin yan especially if medyo hindi ganong contrasting yung text natin or object. Kung napansin niyo po dito yung text na space, nagkaroon siya ng drop shadow. The reason is, nag-click po ako dito sa white area niya, white space area ng layer para ma-enable ko yung layer style. And then, when I click this panel, yung drop shadow panel, pwede kong i-adjust yung opacity ng text. So, para mas maging readable yung text po natin. But, since I've added naman po, I've added a background area dito. So, still it adds more readability. So, pwede po natin explore yung layer styles. Lastly, for this quick image filters, aside from image adjustments, styles, and filters, let me show you this. So, ginawa ko po is ginroup ko po ngayon itong layers natin as we have discussed earlier. I-click ko po ngayon itong abstract background ko here. And then, gagamitan po natin siya ng filter. Again, ang focus ko po is image filters. There are lots of image filters in Photoshop, but I'll just try a few, or maybe one or two. So, to apply filter dito sa image natin, just click your layer, go to filter, and then eto na po yung mga filters na yon. Gusto nyo pong i-blur yung image, click mo lang yung blur, or filter, blur, tapos Gaussian blur. Pwede nating i-adjust yung radius. So you'll notice that yung background ko po, nag-blur siya. But I'm not going to do that actually. What I'm going to apply is this filter, render, and then lens flare. Again, na-click po ako dito sa image na to. Tapos filter, render, and then lens flare. Kung nakita nyo po yung effect na to, yun po yung gusto kong ilagay dun sa image natin. So I'm just going to drag this effect somewhere here para po tayo may flare ng light. Alagay ko sa somewhere here. We can adjust the brightness. And then click OK. So you'll notice meron tayo ditong lens flare. I will return back this background now and text. And yun po. So everything that we have been discussed now ay na-apply po natin dito sa example na to. Same thing po if you're going to create PowerPoint images for your presentations. I'm just going to show you some example po. So huwag nyo lang po kakalimutan sa sizes ng PowerPoint background and resolutions. Sa PowerPoint, it is 1280 by 720 pixels. Tapos po, yung Keynote, 1920 by 180p. Sir, pwede po bang i-apply ko yung size ng Keynote sa PowerPoint para mas malinaw na lang yung image? Wala pong problema yon. Okay? So, kahit lakihan nyo kung lakihan yung dimensions ng background, wala pong problema, but you might just suffer din sa file size ng PowerPoint presentation na gagawin nyo po. So, medyo ingat din po din sa pag-adjust or pag-increase ng resolution. But again, this one is okay. So for PowerPoint po, tandaan nyo lang po yung size na yon. Sinabi ko po kanina. Tapos, tip ko po sa inyo, when you do PowerPoint backgrounds or maybe layouts, you can use color palettes. Pwede po kayong, let's say, mag-search maybe sa Google ng mga better color palettes or type ninyo na color palettes. And then, pwede po tayo mag-create ng slides. Actually, so in my case, meron po akong mga images available here. Gusto ko silang gawing background. Tip ko po sa inyo, pwede kayong maghanap ng backgrounds na image backgrounds na medyo may white space. Kung walang masyadong white space like this, pwede tayong mag-add ng colored rectangular style, marquee, katulad pong ginawa natin dun sa example o dito. Okay? So, here, agad po ako ng image, then pwede po tayo mag-create ng something like this. Something like this. Sir, paano mo nagawa yung shape na yon? Technically, pwede po kayong mag-create ng shape. Actually, yung shape tool na to, explore nyo lang po, pwede kayong mag-create ng tools, rectangular tool, rectangular shape, or rectangular marquee tool. Pwede mo siyang lagyan ng color. Create muna tayo ng layer. Lagyan ng color using paint bucket tool, Control D, deselect. Remember po yung Control T, yung transform. Pwede natin tong i-rotate like that. Adjust yung size. Press enter. And then opacity, you can just adjust the opacity. You can change the color you want using paint bucket tool. Mag-decide ka na hindi na black, gusto mo medyo red color. Yan. So pwede natin i-adjust yung na-draw natin. So that's how I did this example. Okay. This one. So kung walang masyadong white space yung ating image background, you can just put some color here. Let's say, ayan po. So para medyo mas maging readable lang yung text natin. And this one. And yung size po ng ating PowerPoint template, huwag pong kakalimutan, yung sinabi ko po kaninang size. But if you want to access yung size ng inyong canvas, I mean ng image, kung tama ba, just remember this shortcut, Control-Alt-I, or you can just go to image and then image size. Again, image size. You'll see that here, I applied 1920 by 180p. 96 ang resolution na ginagamit mo ng PowerPoint. You can still use 72 if medyo nag-worry dun sa size, but 96 or 100 is good. Again, image, image size for your PowerPoint presentations. And again, I hope you have enjoyed some things na na-discuss po natin dito. I hope you've learned something. And please rewatch this video again if you want to revisit yung mga actions na ginawa po natin. And please don't forget to subscribe to our BulSU-CICT YouTube channel, and always, of course, ring the bell button para lagi po tayong updated sa mga webinars po natin. And last thing, huwag po kalimutan, meron po tayong evaluation form na i-fill up, i-paste po dun sa comment sections po natin. Okay po? So this is Jason Magalang po, and thank you for your time po.